This hearing is called to order. Welcome to the hearing. I'm the ranking member of the Aging Committee. I want to tell you a little story about how I got onto it. It was shortly after I got elected, and Senator Tim Scott, who is running for president, busy, I think, out in Iowa right now, called me, and it's a committee that you can't legislate through, but I thought, no legislation. You're recruiting someone to be on it. And you're talking to a freshman senator. Well, let me think about it. But when he told me what you can do with it, it has been actually the committee that has probably been most interesting because we can pick any topic. Generally, it's got to be related to aging, and we all age. So I really enjoyed it. Now the ranking member, Senator Casey from Pennsylvania, is a chairman, and we've talked about all kinds of issues. And then that discussion can lead to legislation, and we always get a varied opinion on the subject matter. So older Americans play such a critical role throughout the economy, business and law enforcement, on the family farms, and even now some are considering maybe coming out of retirement. So it's gotten to be a different dynamic out there. A report from a committee found earlier this year that 43% of Americans retired, and I mentioned it just a moment ago, are thinking about coming out of retirement. And that's probably not the plan that everybody was looking to happen. We worked so hard to get there, and then when you have to consider that, it's just a dynamic I think most would rather see being a little different. Prices have been rising. A lot of times when you try to enterprise through government, it's how you pay for it. The printing press, remember, is in the basement with the Fed, and a lot of what was done, especially post-COVID, did not have a real pay for. I've been one of the few voices in DC. I'm on the budget committee, and it's like maybe talking to the side of my barn back home sometimes. We got to get better at that. That kind of spending may feel good in the short run, but we know it's not a long-term plan because look at the results. So many Americans thinking about coming out of retirement. Police officers and often retire from careers, and I want to bring this subject up, and it concerns WEP and GPO that can cut their Social Security by nearly 60%. Just because they have a separate earned pension. There's a bill in DC currently that I've been looking at, and due to that inherent inequity, I'm going to get on that bill as a sponsor, and if we can find a bona fide pay for, which I've been able to do through my team on more legislation than almost any Republican senator on issues like education, healthcare, agriculture, I think this is something that makes sense, and I'm going to work hard when I get back to where we get an honest pay for and we don't borrow the money to do it. At the same time, rising interest rates are squeezing any retirement funds. In terms of expenses, you may get a little better return on your investment portfolio, but then if you need to borrow any money, and it also is part and parcel of how we're having to react to tame inflation, it gets very complicated. Our office weighed in on ESG, environment, social, and governance. And I don't care what you say you can do with an investment approach, the most important part should be the return on investment, the numbers. And if you can do both at the same time, that's fine. It should be ancillary, not primary. When older Americans are productive, socially connected, gainfully employed, are secure in their retirements, we're all better off. We're all going to be there someday. The good news is there are still economic opportunities for older Americans. Many are reinventing their retirements, deciding to stay active and split time between flexible work, leisure, and family activities. Older Americans help employers and communities and benefit in that process. like an 82-year-old grandma who went back to work as a baker in Georgia. She was recruited while shopping. For employers facing labor shortages, older Americans can still fill those gaps. A recent report showed that older workers will make up a quarter of the workforce by 2031. And if we want to turn that around, we're going to have to do something about how, from the bottom up, we reinvigorate the economy to where we can set more aside for retirement and still be gainfully employed along the way before you get there. And my thinking is for 40 or 50 years, we've been moving towards a stronger presence from our federal government. It'd be different if we were knocking it out of the park. And currently, tragically, not only for older Americans, but younger Americans, we're running the biggest business in the world, borrowing nearly $2 trillion a year. Think about the greatest generation, grew up in the Depression, fought the World War, came back, paid off that highest debt that we had ever been encumbered by, and built the interstate highway system. Where has that gone? We need to get back to it. If we do, and we can, I think the solutions will be mostly crafted where you do have to live within your means, where you don't have the printing press in the basement, or the credit card gets renewed regardless of your behavior. Our goal should be collectively, through all levels of government, to untap that potential, supporting dignified work and retirements, not holding back, being entrepreneurial. At least don't keep doing the same thing that's taken us to a place where I think there's going to be reconciliation the hard way, not to where we proactively fix it.